I asked 800 of you to send me your homework and spent a week doing all of them just to prove that all the tips in this video works. I mean, here is some of the feedback that I got back. Everyone says, oh, you just need to understand. Once you understand, you'll remember anything. Sometimes you really do have to memorize. So this video is split into 5 parts. The 5-step process to memorizing anything, how to memorize dry facts, how to memorize formulas, how to memorize similar looking facts without getting confused, and lastly, how to memorize dates and chronology. Everyone needs to watch the first part because it's for every subject. For the other parts, I'll put the timestamps in the description box below. Thank you Grammarly for sponsoring this video. Let's go! The 5-step process to actually remember what you study. Step 1. If you study by making notes and then reading them repeatedly, it could explain why you can spend hours studying but still score below what you expect. Because reading is actually just part 1. You will be able to recognize everything in the exam but not be able to answer anything properly. You need to do step 2, which is do multiple choice questions. This is how you're going to test that understanding because everything makes sense in a textbook until it looks like this in the exam. After showing this in my exam vlogs, a lot of you asked me how I create my own MCQs. I just asked AI to help me generate them from my notes. Here's the exact prompt that I use, feel free to screenshot. I already have a Grammarly account, so I just use that for convenience. But quick tip, you can paste your notes onto the website and generate it there, and you can have one file per topic. Makes everything look really neat, but I prefer downloading the Chrome extension because then it's built into Google Docs. I just highlight the part of the notes I want to test myself on, write out my answers somewhere, and then check. Always copy and paste the questions you got wrong in a separate document so you can review them later. Here's my bacteriology document as an example. I mentioned this in my How to Be the Perfect Student video, but when you're done studying and you tick off Study History Chapter 3, what does this actually mean, bestie? Because these are all different versions of Studied History Chapter 3. But if we had an exam tomorrow, we'll fail if we did option A and B. Please check out that video here. Next part, do fill in the blanks. You've tested yourself, you know you understand the content, now we need to memorize key terms. The best way to lock them in is using fill in the blanks. Here is the AI prompt that I use. Bacteriology is full of difficult terms and I scored 90% on my recent test, so you know this works. I learned this trick from my immunology lecturer. They gave us fill in the blanks to do after every module, and I found it was so useful in understanding which terms are actually important that I need to memorize first. Part 4, you're going to do the scribble method to memorize sentences. Now it's time for us to build full answers. Take your learning objectives and turn them into questions. You'll usually find them on the first page of every topic in your textbook or at the beginning of your lecture slides. Then go through your notes and convert any important parts into a question too. Then on a whiteboard or some rough piece of paper, scribble out dot point answers. Include all the keywords, dates, and terms. But here's the catch, do not stop at dotted points. I used to do that, okay? I was tired, I was like, I don't want to do full essays, let me just dot out the points. Then I realized during my exam, I would be wasting so much time trying to convert my ideas into full coherent answers. Because here's an example, okay? This makes sense. It sounds fine until you realize you're missing all these words when you answer it in an exam. So if you struggle with timing in exams, you need to do part 5, which is to turn those essay questions you wrote into full sentences like you would write them in the exam. Mark the ones that you struggle with, redo those questions every few days until you can answer each one of them seamlessly. My 5-step process will not let you down, I promise. Feel free to screenshot these 5 steps for future reference, and I'll link all my exam vlogs in the description box below. And I compiled all the things you can do with your Grammarly account into one single document. I'll leave it in the description box below. You can use my link to create a free account. Grammarly is the reason why I've been scoring grades like these for years now. For example, I'll ask Grammarly to help me brainstorm initial topics for my essays, or identify gaps in my essay to really boost those critical thinking marks. These are all free features, but if you upgrade to Pro, you get access to tools that can help you turn wordy sentences into clear, effective ones. This was so helpful to me during my internship when I had to write those really scientific academic essays. And now you can prove that your work is actually written by you with their new authorship feature. It'll categorize your text as written by you, created with AI, or edited with Grammarly. The link to create a free Grammarly account will be in the description box below. That's grammarly.com/faymay. You can also get 20% off Grammarly Pro using the same link. Now, how to memorize very dry facts that make no logical sense. This is relevant for all my biology, pharmacology, anatomy, or even English lit students who are stuck just memorizing super dry facts. Imagine each grain of rice is a term. If I scatter the rice across the table, you'll never be able to recreate this shape. But if I arrange this into a pattern, you'll be able to recreate it instantly. Same thing with terms, you'll need to restructure them into a pattern that you can remember. The easiest way to do this is by using color. For example, for bacteriology, all my gram-positive bacteria is written in green, all my gram-negative bacteria is written in red. It's one less thing to memorize. When I think about gonorrhea, I immediately know it's gram-negative because I only write it in red. For immunology, everything about T cells is written in orange and B cells is in blue. When I get confused about the structure of the spleen, I remember that I wrote something in blue on top and orange in the middle. So I know that the B cell zone is on top and the T cell zone is in the middle. Does this make sense? Let me know in the comments. This has saved me so many times in exams. Here are two other real examples. First, a medical student memorizing names of medicine and their function. I told her to color code the medicine based on what they affect. So now instead of trying to remember every single medicine and their separate effects, she just needs to remember the color. This is her feedback. Even better, an English literature student memorizing quotes from different texts. Faizan told me that she struggled to remember quotes from different books and how they relate to different themes. And I gave her the same trick. So every single quote or thing about conformity will be written in blue and everything about individuality will be written in orange. In your notes, one look and you'll know immediately what themes this book has. The second way is by using structure and color. So I'm going to show you in real time how I convert this 30-page section of my notes about the different classes of antibiotics into this. That's it. We're going to use structure and color. First, I go through my notes, then find out what I need to remember. Here is the classes, the name of the antibiotics, and so on. Very important, we're going to draw it out. Take a rough piece of paper and group them accordingly. You'll get better at this with practice, trust me. Then assign as many things as you can with a specific color or shape. Here's what I came up with for this chapter. Now see this magic happen. 3 boxes on top for their function, 2 boxes for their classes. I use this mnemonic to memorize the starting letters. Then I remember the second row is red, green, red, red, and everything else is red. Then I mark this inverted L with the letter S. Then just fill in the blanks. I swear, okay, the 30-page section of notes is literally just this one A4 sheet of paper. So this way, you don't need to remember every single detail, you just need to remember the colors and patterns. Remember to subscribe and like this video if you're enjoying it so far. Now, how to memorize many formulas. This was so requested on my Instagram, but most of you try to remember formulas by dumping 100 of them onto a piece of A4 paper, staring at it for hours and then wondering why your life has come to this point. I mean, I've seen your formula sheets, besties. Don't deny you don't do this. Here's how I memorize formulas as someone who did take economics, physics, and mathematics in college. There are 3 parts to this and please listen to all parts. Part 1. You need to group your formulas according to when you learn them, not by topic. Let's just say you're learning electrostatics like this student here. You don't learn all 20 formulas in one go. Your textbook or slides will introduce them gradually. Maybe these 3 in lecture 1, then 2 more in lecture 2. If you have a textbook, this is much easier because they're usually grouped by subtopics. Here's a real-life example. Kashmala sent me her formula sheet. This is her before, and this is the after. Now here's where most students mess up. They learn set 1 of formulas, then do practice questions for this set. Then the next week, they learn set 2 and only do practice questions for this set. If you do this, I can guarantee that by the end of the semester, you'll be familiar with all the formulas but not know how to use any of them. You'll look at the question and just be stuck. You need to layer your practice just like this. So as you learn your formulas, you'll be spending more time doing practice questions. Think of each formula as a card in your deck. You'll be collecting more and more cards as the semester progresses, but you also need to train when to use each card. Otherwise, it's like building a deck, but you don't know what each card does. Doing practice questions for each set of formulas as you learn them will teach you to know which card to draw. Because exam questions will never tell you use formula set 4. You'll need to know which card to draw on your own and maybe even draw 3 to 4 at the same time. Part 2. Write the formulas out every single time. Every single time you do questions, whether that's MCQs, long answers, short answers, write down all the possible formulas that you could be using. 2 reasons: you're building memory through repetition, and some examiners will actually give you marks for just writing the right formula, even if your wording is wrong. And if you struggle to answer the question, you can just sift through all the formulas and see which one fits. For my besties that want to guarantee great marks, create a formula notebook. If you're an OG, you know I've been doing this for years. Take a notebook, dedicate 1 page per topic. At the top, write the topic title, list how many formulas belong to it, then neatly write them out all underneath. I highly recommend that you split your page into 2, and right side is all the sample questions that use them. Every time you do a question, you ask yourself, which topic is this from? Grab your little formula book and write down every single formula in that topic. This was a long part, but if you found it helpful, please share it with your friends. Next, how to memorize similar looking facts without getting confused. You know, when you're learning like 60 different bacteria and 30 different medicine, they all just kind of end up looking the same. Make tables, but not just any table. Use the same format for every single one. Let's just say you're learning about bacteria. Your table headings might look like this. If something doesn't apply, you just put a dash. Having the same format means that instead of you needing to memorize a whole chunk of information for each thing, you just need to spot the difference. So if you look at my notes for Shigella and Salmonella, you can immediately see which characteristics are the same and which are different. When you revise, you can also easily cover the right side of the page and try to recall what you remember. Now, how to memorize dates. I actually took law as an extra subject in university, and history was my favorite in high school. So here's my exact system on how I memorize dozens of dates without losing my mind. I first go through all my notes and extract every single date that shows up. For each one, just write the year, the main event, the topic that it came from if you need to. You can type this out or scribble it down, doesn't really matter. Then you need to draw one big horizontal line across a page or a whiteboard. Write out every single year in chronological order, then space them out proportionately. Then, under each year, write the key event. But make sure you color code it. You can choose, assign a topic, a main event, or an important person a specific color. By the end, your timeline should look like a rainbow of information, all neatly laid out that you can easily scan. Now you need to do repetition. Force yourself to rewrite this timeline as often as possible. Eventually, I would actually quiz myself in the opposite way. So I would name an event and try to circle the year it belonged to. Now, why does this system work so well? First, you finally develop a concept of time. You'll have so many moments where you're like, wait, I thought that event 1 happened before event 2. But nope, they overlapped. It's so much easier to remember dates when you know when they happened relative to each other. Second, in the exam, when they ask you questions like, did this event happen in 1847? You know in your timeline that you never write the date 1847, so you know that that's not true. Or third, exam questions like to ask, name all the major events that happened in X year. You'll remember from your timeline that it had orange, yellow, and purple. So you'll know to mention these 3 completely separate events from different topics. You will score very high marks in your essay questions if you're able to do this, by the way. If you've made it this far, comment down below if you prefer studying languages or STEM subjects. I am not a language person. I prefer studying science and maths. Remember to like this long video, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell and set it to all so you don't miss out on any future uploads and vlogs. Thank you for 1,390,000 subscribers, and I'll see you all in my next video, bestie. Bye bye. Chemistry chapter 3. Why am I struggling to pronounce chemistry? Chemistry. Okay, I'm gonna pick another subject. History. But when you're done studying, oh my gosh, I'm out of breath. Can you even see my lipstick? I'm gonna use a pinker one. Oh, so much better. But quick tip. Okay, but quick tip. Bye, bestie!